For my project, I chose a drawing by C.W. Jeffries. The original drawing depicted Mother Mary teaching a group of indigenous children. When I first examined the drawing, I noticed how the main focus was on the nun looking down on all of these children that she is teaching. You can notice how the original artist was trying to show the curiosity of the children and how they were focused on the nun teaching them. I feel like the drawing is a bit one-sided and we are only shown the positive side of the story. When we got the chance to recreate the drawing, I wanted to try and find the perspective of someone outside of the circle. I saw how there was a fence in the background and decided to zoom out of my picture to show how the children were possibly trapped inside of the fenced area. I used my reinterpretation of the drawing to show the parents' perspective of looking towards their children. I think that my image can show some of the consequences of colonization because of how this one moment impacted the future. I saw how this drawing was based off the 17th century but was drawn in the 1940s. I chose to represent in my project of how what started as a single nun teaching children slowly evolved into residential schools as Canada became more colonized. The more that the Europeans started to colonize and take over, the less rights the Indigenous had. One of the biggest downfalls of colonization was how the Indigenous were impacted. By the time that this drawing was done, residential schools had become a very big part of daily life. With colonization spreading in Canada, the British and French colonies were fighting over who claimed Canada, and were writing treaties whilst ignoring the Indigenous rights. I chose to leave the children mostly faceless to show how these children were used to try and spread Christianity and to attempt to erase their culture and replace it with a more European perspective. My overall idea for the reinterpretation of the drawing was to show the perspective of the families looking in, and to create a drawing that conveys the perspective of centuries of the Indigenous viewpoint, to show that it stayed the same, yet also got worse with colonization.